Hey, Shalom, Makim Shalom. First and foremost, as always, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem HaKadosh. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone that taught us His truth and that's still teaching His truth. And much peace, love, and salutation to the elect, beginning with the 144,000 all the way down to the large multitude that believes and who the Lord will deliver in these last days. To you all we say Shalom. I'm the brother Tazamah from the Great Millstone Dallas camp, coming back today with another lesson. And I pray this lesson will be edifying to the elect. This lesson is not going to be it's not going to be too long, but I want to do a lesson on this article that you see here on the screen. This is from the ChristianPost.com, and this is dated for March 31st. So this is a couple weeks ago, going on like 2 weeks ago. But the article reads: it says Labor Council seeks to imprison street preachers up to 2 years for causing offense and distress. Let's read that again. Labor Council seeks to imprison street preachers up to 2 years for causing offense and distress. Christians to be criminalized for handing out Bibles, praying for, laying hands on people. Now, this is in I want to say that this is in England, but immediately when I seen that title, it made me first and foremost think, of the famine of the word as it's written. Let's get that real quick. It's written in Amos, the 8th chapter, how there's going to be a famine of the word that's going to go out. And they're going to pass particular laws, and with these draconian measures that will continue to keep coming down the line. They're going to pass laws to the point that whereas we're not going to be able to even go out there on the highways and hedges and even preach anymore. And Esau's going to pass these laws for that to happen. But ultimately, it's going to be Yahweh, Bashem Yahweh Shai, doing it ultimately for prophecy's sake. All right, this is the book of Amos, chapter 8, verse 11. It says, Behold, the days come, saith the Lord Yahweh, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of Yahweh. See that? So there's going to be a famine. And when you get that word famine, all right, it means to be pretty much, the word was just in my mind. It's like I'm a little under the weather. Well, you know what? Let's just do this. Let's just get the etymology online dictionary of that word, famine. All right, that word famine here, when you get it, it's from Old French famine, starvation, from vulgar Latin famina, from Latin fam is hunger, starvation, famine. Now the word is likened as unto food as well too. You see, and the scripture says that we're supposed to esteem the words of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai more than our necessary food. You see, but when the average everyday Jake, can't go out and actually hear the word based upon things that are coming upon the earth. As it says, in Luke 21, great confusion, matter of fact, let me get that real quick. Yeah, that word goes back to famish. All right, or famine and famish are synonymous. 1 second here. All right, Salaki. So yeah, when you get that word, I'm sorry. Let me go back and get another precept real quick. Hey man, because when things come down the pipe and when things hit the fan, you're gonna have a lot of people that's gonna be wanting to ask questions. You're gonna have a lot of people wanting to ask questions, but it's gonna be too late at that point because the Lord is gonna have His men off the streets. All right, this is the book of Luke 21, verse 25. Actually, verse 25. It says, and there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars. See that? So there's gonna be signs in the sun, and the moon, and the stars, which we just had. Lunar eclipses take place, solar eclipses that are taking place. All these various different signs in the heavens, which that's signs that the Lord gives us to let us know what time it is. It says, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity. And that word perplexity ultimately means confusion. But when you get the root word of perplexity, it means to be without resources. All right, it says the sea and the waves roaring. men's heart failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth. See that? So men's hearts, or people's hearts, their minds are going to fail. When you're not going to know, you're not going to know how you're going to get your next meal. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to know how to take care of your family. You're not going to know how to feed your children. You're not going to know if you're going to survive the next day due to the fact of people trying to break and enter into your crib. Getting laid off of your job, being homeless. All these various different things are gonna come upon the earth, particularly here in Babylon the Great in its perfection, which is gonna cause a lot of people to fear. It says, "For the powers of heaven shall be shaken." It says, "And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in the cloud with power and great glory." And that's going into Yahushua, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus, returning in the chariot, which is what the world calls a UFO. All right, but before Yahushua returns, it's going to be great persecution. It's also going to be persecution on the men of the Lord too. But these things, these things have to happen. These things must be. All right. Hold on one second here. Because there was another precept that oh yeah, that's right. Let me get this real quick here. Let's go back to Amos. Amos chapter 8, verse 12, it says, "And they shall wander from sea to sea, and from the north even to the east. They shall run to and fro to seek the word of Yahweh, and shall not find it." You see, they're not going to be able to find the words of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. They're not going to be able to hear the word. They're not going to be able to hear the prophecies. They're not going to know what to do. You see? And these are the things that are coming. These are the things that are coming upon the earth. Okay? So let's go back to the article. It says a Labor Party run council in England, and we got Zaquanium and Akim out there in England that teach. You see, has sparked outrage by proposing a sweeping injunction that could imprison Christian street preachers for up to 2 years over claims of causing offense or distress. You see, and hey, when Yahushua was on the scene, scriptures say that he would upbraid the city. Okay, I spelled that incorrectly. My fault. He would upbraid the city. All right, this is Matthew chapter 11, verse 20. Because Yahushua, the scriptures say that he was an austere man. He was a very rough man. So when Yahushua came on the scene, and as well as the other prophets, they came to stir things up. The Apostle Paul was labeled as a pestilent fellow. So when you watch these movies of Yahushua and the apostles, and they got them as these soft men. They weren't soft men. The prophets were hard. They were rough men. You see, and when they came on the scene, it would bring offense to a degree. Hey, Yahushua said what he said. Blessed. Matter of fact, let's get that real quick. He said, "Blessed is he who was not offended in me." What's that? John. Without this one, I think it's in Matthew 11. We'll read this though. John 16:1. It says, "These things have I spoken unto you, that ye should not be offended." You see? So these things are spoken so that you won't be offended. So that, we hear these things that are coming down the pipe. So, we hear that they're passing laws to lock us up physically. We're not to be offended at these things because the Lord already let us know that these things would happen. All right, but let me get the one that I called for. I want to say it's Matthew, the 11th chapter. Right, Matthew 11:6, it says, "And blessed is he whosoever shall not be offended in me." So when you hear the word, the elect are not going to be offended, but the rest of the everyday average, average individual is going to be offended at the word. They're going to be offended at the message. They're going to be offended at the prophecies. They're going to be offended at the men that's bringing it out. You see, that's why people hear the word. They hear us and they see us and they're like, they're more so like, we got to get these guys off the streets. Because we pretty much ruined You pretty much ruined their day, but it's fine, right? It says Rushmore Borough Council covering Fanborough and Eldershot has faced accusation of attempting to criminalize Christians for preaching, praying, and distributing Bibles in public spaces. Now, how is this word? How does the word go out? All right, the word goes out in public places. You see, that's the reason as to why we don't actually have a physical, like a physical school or a physical building. You may see people walk up and be asking us, where's you guys' church at? Where's you guys' building? Well, we are the building. We are the church. And that's one thing that most people don't understand is the fact that, the scripture said that the Lord doesn't dwell with temples made in hand. He doesn't dwell in temples made by hands. The spirit of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua is within us because we are the temple. But, wherever we're gathered, that's where Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua is gathered as well too. And we're to bring out the scriptures in the broad places. It says that in Proverbs, the 1st chapter. Wisdom cried, but thou she uttereth her voice in the streets. The council initially applied for the injunction in February, citing complaints about noise, public disruption, and distress caused by street preachers. Under the proposed terms, Christians would be banned from praying for individuals without prior consent, handing out religious leaflets or Bibles by hand, and laying hands on people in prayer, even with permission, according to the Telegraph. Now, we don't do that. Somebody comes up, we're not handing out pamphlets. We're not handing out pamphlets. We're not handing out, we're not asking people, hey, brother, excuse me, brother, in that Hulk Hogan spirit, brother, do you need to be prayed for, brother? We ain't doing all that. When we out there, our job is to preach the word. All right, and Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua brings in, those who are meant to listen, and then that's it. When we're not out here, gathering out and calling people, everybody, that hears the word. We're not out here, hey, you want to be a part of the camp? We ain't doing none of that. Let me lay hands on you so I can pray for you. Now, granted, has there been moments where somebody genuinely comes up and wants to be prayed for? Yeah, but we don't even do that. We don't even do that on camera. That may happen off camera, and that's and those moments are very, very few, far and in between. But I would be lying if I said if I said that has never happened. But going back to the point, they are they're going to criminalize preaching. And that lines up with the Revelation, the 2nd chapter. All right, verse 10. Revelation 2:10, it says, "Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer." See that? So we're not to fear or have a fear of the things that are coming down the pipe. We're not to have a fear, of what Esau can do. Yahweh Shai said it. He said, "Don't fear man that could kill the body, but fear Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, for lack of better words, that can kill the body and that can destroy the body and the soul in hell." See, because even the power, even the power that we have, or not that we have, Salaki, even the power that Esau thinks that he has, it's been given to him anyway. What did Yahweh Shai say? What did Yahweh Shai say? I think it's in Matthew the 26th chapter. I think it's in Matthew 26. Just give me 1 second. Maybe it's Matthew 27. It might be Matthew 27. You see? Nah. Just bear with me. Okay, nah, it's not in the book of Matthew. It's probably in the book of John, most likely then. It's pretty much wherever he was talking to Pilate. You know what I'm saying? And he pretty much told him, it's like, man, look, I came to lay my life down. There's nothing that you can do. Here it is. Right, this is John 19:10. It says, Then saith Pilate unto him, Speakest thou not unto me? Knowest thou not that I have power to crucify thee, and have power to release thee? Yahushua answered, Thou couldst have no power at all. Thou couldst have no power at all against me, except it were given thee from the above. You see, so the power that our enemies, or those that may lock us up, whatever the case may be, that's the power that they have to do that has been given to them from Yahweh Shai at the end of the day. You see, remember, the Lord is in control. It says, Therefore he that delivered me unto thee hath the greater sin. You see that? And who delivered Yahweh Shai to Pontius Pilate was those wicked scribes and Pharisees, which ultimately they're going to receive their judgment. But the point is what Yahweh Shai said, Thou couldst have no power at all against me, except it were given thee from above. You see? It's the same way. It's the same way today. So going back, hold on a second. I don't know what the hell just happened, but anyway, okay, I think I might have clicked the ad by mistake down there. But going back to Revelation 2:10, it says, Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. It says, Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried. You see that? That ye may be tried, tested. It says, And ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. You see that? And that's going to be a test for some brothers, is to be locked up. To actually be in prison. But we just got to remember, that Yahweh Shai is going to be with us. In that time of that trial and temptation, the Lord is going to be with us. It says, the injunction also sought to prohibit approaching individuals to discuss religion and preaching messages that could be perceived as hostile toward protected characteristics such as age, gender, or sexual orientation. See? Because that's one of the main reasons as to why people may be offended, is the fact of, you may have H to the O to the MOs, H to the MOs, right? Maybe walking down the street, transmissions walking around, PDF files, SAs, Violations of the injunction could result in fines, arrest, and a maximum prison sentence of 2 years. After an intervention by the Christian Legal Center, street preachers represented by the legal group have managed to temporarily halt the attempt. So you got people trying to stop it. Let me go down. Let's see. Let's see. In one instance, a member of the public claimed that Christian preaching created a non-inclusive environment. But it's crazy because the people that be saying these things be so-called Christians. A non-inclusive, inclusive pretty much means to include. Is something like you being included in something. Another complained that hearing religious messages has ruined their day. And that's crazy because it's actually funny because it's to a degree. We do to a degree ruin people's day. That's what the prophets did. The scriptures say, the prophets that have been before thee and before me and before thee of old, prophesied both against great countries and against great kingdoms, of war and of evil and of pestilence. So you're not gonna hear this fuzzy good feeling whenever you run into the actual prophets. This person probably ran into some Christian based group out there preaching, whatever the case may be, which they don't got the truth, but this is more so aimed at us. That's mainly it though. Like I said, I didn't want this lesson to be too long. I pray it was edifying to the elect. Once again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem HaKakodash. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders, a great millstone that taught us his truth, and that's what teaching his truth. Much peace, love, and salutation to the elect. Until next time, Lord willing, I say shalom.